Hi, this is David Mastio, California editor for the Center Square, and this is California in Focus. As always, I'm joined by Kenneth Schrupp, a California reporter for the Center Square. Today we're talking about LA's prostitution boom. Kenneth, this started with a New York Post story. What did they find?
They found that there's a whole part of LA's South Central Figueroa Corridor where there are hundreds of prostitutes all hours of the day, some of them charging as little as $40 for some acts, with, quote, 10 girls on the corner, condoms on the ground, all in broad daylight.
How has the law changed to set this up?
Governor Newsom signed something called the Safer Streets for All Act in 2022, and that entered effect in January of this year. And it made it so that loitering with the intent to commit prostitution is no longer a misdemeanor criminal offense. And this gives police no real way to prevent people from loitering for the purposes of soliciting customers unless they believe that that individual is underage. The justification for this law was that the existing sentencing targets black women and members of the transgender community and discriminates on the basis of gender, race, class, and perceived sex worker status. This is all quotes from bill author, State Senator Scott Wiener's statement on this.
And this is not just happening in the Figueroa neighborhood. This is happening in broader areas of LA.
No, it is happening all across the city. I'm interested to see why the New York Post decided to focus just on the Figueroa Corridor area, because it is an area that's known to be filled with crime and gangs, and is often, if people report on crime there, it's thought to just be a high crime area, so it's not really thought of. But this problem extends to Hollywood and to this area of LA called Westchester, next to LAX and the airport in the west side of the city, in an area called the Century Corridor on Century Boulevard. So you have three major prostitution corridors in LA that have opened up.
So police have obviously limited power to do anything. What can they do?
The most they can do is look and see if there are women who look underage. Underage women, they're allowed to say, we can bring you to a shelter, we can contact the Department of Children and Family Services, and we can get you out of this situation. But that's really all they can do. What the police say is that they will take someone off the streets, and a couple days later, they'll be right back where they were, and these are going to be girls who are under 18 working as prostitutes.
Is one reason that's the case that there's a gang connection here? Are women forced to go back? Do they have pimps?
The vast majority, at least according to the New York Post reporting on police statements, do have pimps that are connected with street gangs. That means that there's a high degree of intimidation and fear on reporting crimes in the industry, if we're going to call it that. The inability to report crimes due to the criminal connection makes it very hard for people to get out of this life. Many of them have been trafficked from other states or even other countries.
You talked to a member of the city council. What did she say?
I did talk to council member Tracy Park, whose LA City Council district includes the Westchester area and the Century Corridor. And she blamed Sacramento for this. She went straight to the source. She said this is another soft on crime bill out of Sacramento, leading to more crime on the streets of Los Angeles. And unfortunately, in many cases, it's women and vulnerable people who are the victims of this. The state made a decision that we are now seeing the direct consequences for.
We also reported this week that Democrats in the state of California are taking some steps to take the crime problem more seriously. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, there's two initiatives that Scott Wiener and California Democrats unveiled. The first is ending a loophole that makes it extremely hard to convict anyone of a breaking into a car and stealing from it, aka an auto burglary. Right now, if you had somebody who broke into a car and left the door unlocked or open, you can't get a conviction because you have to prove that the car was locked. And so if the car is unlocked as a result of someone breaking in and unlocking the door, then you can't get a conviction under current law. Another way that people can't get convictions is if a victim returns to the car and opens the door before the police can take a report and establish the car was locked, no conviction. If a victim forgets whether or not they locked their doors, or if they're not available to testify in court that their doors were locked, no conviction. So this bill would close that loophole. Second thing that they announced was the formation of a select committee on retail theft. I'm not exactly sure what this is going to accomplish other than signal that they are taking the problem somewhat more seriously, but it's a good first step.
Is this prostitution situation another opportunity for Democrats?
I would be interested to see what happens within the Democratic Party between the sections of the party that strongly care about protecting women from sex trafficking and abuse that occurs in prostitution, and those who believe that unjust prosecution for prostitution-related acts is going to result in disparate impact on disadvantaged members of communities.
I'm David Mastio with the Center Square, and we've been talking with Kenneth Schrupp, California reporter for the Center Square. You can read his work at thecentersquare.com. Thank you for listening to California in Focus, and please subscribe to our podcast.